Welcome back. All right, so with Christmas, just a few days off, I figured it might be a good time to talk about Christmas wishes. NHL teams, what's their Christmas wish? And I do believe I have all 32 teams on the board because the first time I started this, I had two Seattles. Anyways, and I tried to get it into four columns. I messed around with it a bunch of times, way more than I'd like to admit here. So it's five columns. I apologize if you choose to leave the channel forever because it's five columns. I can't say that you're necessarily wrong. And I threw an NHL logo on here too. So starting with the LA Kings, a Christmas wish. So they're having a pretty good run this year, obviously. But the idea of playing the Oilers again in the first round, probably not all that appealing. So I think a new playoff opponent's what the Kings would want. Whether that means they have to finish first, so they guarantee themselves a wild card. Edmonton not likely to be a wild card or whatever they got to do. I think that'd be the wish right now. For Seattle, more goals. And they won't be the only team that I say that with. But with Seattle, the offense has not been what they had hoped. I think their goaltending's been good. The defense has been fine. But they need to find a way to find more goals. For the Flames are difficult because the Flames, of course, are they rebuilding? Well, kind of, sort of, but they're above the playoff line half the time this year. They're right near that line. Uh, let's see. We'll do it this way. Consistent 60-minute effort. Consistent 60-minute effort. If you get that from the Flames, I think they probably win a little bit more than what they have been recently. So I'd go with that. Um, Anaheim. Bright future, and I'll put right in here 2025 with a question mark because maybe 2025 we see this team really start to take off. There's some aspects of the Anaheim lineup that are really quite good. And it does feel like the improvements there. It's incremental improvement by Anaheim. So it can look like things are still kind of rough, but they're honestly playing pretty well this year. I do think the calendar year 2025 we should see Anaheim improve. For Vancouver, let's get some harmony. Every single day in this market, what do we hear about? JT Miller hates Pedersen. Pedersen hates JT Miller. I can't wait for next week when we hear they didn't exchange Christmas presents. And does that mean they're not allowed to play together? Now they've even got Quinn Hughes. They're asking him about it. And it's like, and and Hughes gave an honest answer. Yeah, the guys get mad at each other. He gets mad at guys too. It happens. You have to play through it. If they start winning all the time, it'll gloss everything over. I guarantee you that in every single locker room there are players who don't necessarily get along. It's not a big deal, but some markets will make it a big deal. Caps, Christmas wish. Getting Ovechkin back healthy and then starting up the goal chase towards the Gretzky record yet again. And Robbie really, that's the thing. Now, I'm not going to have the Stanley Cup as a wish because then you could just do that for half the teams in the league. So I'm not doing that. For the Oilers, the Oilers are a tough one. Scoring from the wings? Jeff Skinner turning things around? Nurse's improved play continuing? There's a lot of things I could put up there for the Oilers, right? Uh they're 8-2 in their last 10. What would the Oilers wish for? Um I'll say McDavid stays healthy. That's a pretty mundane one, sure, but it's hard for me to think for anything with the Oilers. Other than bringing this jersey back with this logo on it as a third. That'd be nice. Bring that reverse retro from this time around back as a third. That'd be a wish for me personally. So I guess I could do this again with my wishes for each team, which could be kind of fun. Montreal. Laine keeps up the PPG run. Power play goals from Laine, 7 and 8 games. Yeah, keep that going. The Montreal Canadiens are going to win their share of games with him in the lineup. Vegas, honestly, other than hoping that guys don't get hurt, I'd say things just keep going, steady as she goes. The Vegas Golden Knights are playing really, really well. I don't see any reason for them to be wishing for a lot. I mean, obviously, this is why I don't have the Stanley Cup as an option, because it's too much of a cop out. Boston. I'll say more goals, more consistent offense from the Boston Bruins, and maybe adding some depth. Part of the reason they brought in Tyler Johnson, who they've now unconditionally waived and terminated the contract of, but that was part of the idea, was getting a veteran in there, a guy who could score some goals, because he had 17 last year for Chicago. I think they're going to be in the hunt for some more goals. Philly. Ice Packs. Why? The style of hockey that John Tortorella has them play, it's hard. It's a very tough game to play. And I think it's part of the reason why they do go into these skids, where they're going to struggle for 5, 6, 10 games at a time, because it is such a very difficult, physically demanding game that John Tortorella puts these guys through. And he is not shy about benching them if they take a shift off. So, yeah, ice packs for the guys in Philly. Nashville. Nashville's actually been playing better lately. What would the thing be that Nashville would want right now? You know what? I'll say this: number one pick. If there's a team that in a draft lottery scenario could really do well with the number one pick, Nashville. Remember, Barry Trotz has talked about basically rearming them this offseason. So if they had the number one draft pick and they rearm in the offseason in July, things look pretty well at that point. Chicago. So bust Bedard's slump. Get Bedard going again. And I say that even though he does have, I think, 9 points in his last 10 games, but it's not the kind of points totals that were expected of him when he came into the NHL. So I think getting Bedard out of his slump, probably a good wish for the Chicago Blackhawks. For St. Louis, are they in the more goals category as well? I'd say top 6 forward for St. Louis. I'll say top 6 forward. They're not the only one, but if St. Louis added a top 6 forward who had some scoring punch to his game as well, St. Louis could stay in the hunt. I like their blue line. I think their blue line's all right, and I think their goaltending, while Bennington's advanced numbers have not been great and Hofer's advanced numbers have been not fantastic either, they're still good goaltenders. And so I think if they added a top 6 forward, St. Louis might be able to maintain a push for that final playoff spot. Finding those goals could be difficult. Utah. So Utah's won 7 in a row on the road. So I'm putting up bring road game home. Basically, if they can play as well at home as they play on the road, they're a playoff team. And for a first-year team in Utah, that's not too shabby, being a playoff team that quickly. For Detroit, they're like one winning streak away from being able to, get into the playoff hunt and stay there. I'm trying to think of players that might be slumping, but I don't want this to be like overly serious. This guy needs to bump his slump and all that fun stuff. What would Detroit want? You can't say new coach. If you're a Detroit fan right now and you're saying we need a new coach, I'm sorry, that's just too negative for a Christmas video. I'll say full 60-minute game. Detroit's had good moments in almost every game they've played. They've had stretches where they've controlled almost every game they've played, but getting that full 60 minutes can be difficult for Detroit this year. Minnesota, they've been sliding a bit lately. I think good health is something they're wishing for right now. Minnesota's going through so many injury issues, and it's always key guys too. Key guys that really throw off the lineup. I think it's why they've had such a pedestrian record in December, and it is something they can turn around once guys start getting healthy again. They don't have the same level of depth as some of the other teams in the NHL. Looking at Washington as an example, Ovechkin's out, they're fine. They have that depth they can bring up. Minnesota's not in that same position. Dallas. It's similar to a full 60 minutes, but for Dallas, focus. And this might just be me talking, but watching their games, there's just little mental errors they're making here and there that means that I'm not seeing them right now as a full-on contender for the Stanley Cup. I'd like to see that change. I'd like to see them as a contender for the Stanley Cup. But the focus issues that I've seen and the little turnovers that are in part because of that, it does make it more difficult. Florida. This is way more wordy than I had intended. This is why I say I don't work with a script. Improve numbers for Bobrovsky. When I've done the goaltending power rankings, Bobrovsky hasn't qualified, and it's because his numbers have not been very good this year. And it's not a matter of, and I've seen people say, well, in the playoffs he'll be great, so he should be in the power rankings. No, power rankings is about who's playing well right now. So, like, for instance, if I was doing a power rankings with who do I think is most likely to win the Stanley Cup right now, it's not going to be the same as the power rankings on the power rankings board that I have. So improved numbers for Bobrovsky would really close up the only potential weakness I see with Florida this season. They've had really good defensive numbers, and their offense has been excellent. The Jets. I think the Jets. I think health's part of it too. They've been in a slump on and off lately. Like, are they tired? What would they wish for? See, the Stanley Cup's what I want to write for Winnipeg. I'm kind of stuck. I'm like, okay, for Winnipeg, they won 15 of their first 16. They've had a middling record since then. Yeah, I'll just get back to the 15 wins and 16 games play the way they were playing then. They made it look relatively easy. They've gone through their struggles recently, and so that's what we're seeing. For Toronto, I'm gonna put not Boston in round one. I think Toronto would do okay against Tampa. I think against Florida, that's a tough matchup, absolutely. Boston, I think, would take them out. And just the narrative, if Boston knocked them out again, would be bad. Toronto, I really do hope they go on a run this year. So I'm not going to put that up there necessarily because that to me is too close to saying Stanley Cup. But it would be nice to see Toronto finally go on a run in the playoffs. It's been so many years now that we've had that discussion, going on like eight seasons of it. So be nice to see that narrative change. Tampa Bay, they're playing really well right now. For Tampa Bay, I would go with Now, it might seem impossible for Kucherov to get to 100 assists again, but I've been watching his assist totals. They're going through the roof again. So maybe he gets back-to-back seasons of 100 assists. I think that'd be fun because that's rare. It's very rare in hockey terms. So personally, I think it would be fun if he did. And I know the odds of him getting there are low, but it's Kucherov. So can he do it? He absolutely can. For the New York Islanders, two things: youth and goals. They need some more younger players. They need an injection of youth in that lineup, and they definitely need more offense than what they've shown that they have so far this season. So for the New York Islanders, that's where I would put that. For the Sens, there's no other wish than playoffs for the Senators, is there? I mean, if the Sens go through this run and they still end up missing the playoffs, what next? They have to, or else we're in a position where we're talking about Ottawa again, just falls short. Again, they're just not good enough. So playoffs. Buffalo. I don't know, an exorcism. Like, this team is just, it feels like it's cursed. I don't know what else there is to do with Buffalo. We've talked about Buffalo a lot in videos. They've lost 12 in a row. They find new ways to lose every game. It is painful to watch, but because of the nature of this channel and the fact that I watch as much hockey as I do, I watch it, and it seems to get more and more painful with each passing game, to the point where today they're playing against Boston. I hope they beat Boston only for the fact that then I don't have to talk about them losing 13 in a row. Although if Boston does beat them, that'd be 13 losses in a row, and it's definitely discussion worthy. So yeah, I feel bad for the Sabres, for their fans. Maybe an exorcism. They just seem to be cursed. For the New York Rangers, I'm gonna give them the same thing that I've said about Vancouver: harmony. If there was a break in that locker room, I hope that the moves that have been made by Chris Drury help to put that out. A break in the locker room can lead to problems on the ice, especially when media is focusing on it and talking about it. And with the Rangers, it does feel like we've been talking about things with them not necessarily going great most of the season. And so getting into a situation where the players are harmonious with management, you might want to laugh at that, but that's really kind of sort of where the Rangers have to be. And I didn't realize I put Buffalo and the Rangers next to each other until just this moment. Columbus. It's a cop-out. Better 2025. It really, Columbus, it's been one tragedy after another around this organization. And it would be nice to see the rest of this season pass by. They have a good run. Maybe they get close to the playoffs. Maybe they end up above the playoff line. And I know that sounds impossible right now. But either way, it'd be nice to see 2025, a calendar year, where nothing bad happens to Columbus, to their players. Just a nice, quiet year overall. It's a very small kind of Christmas present, but that's the one that I would wish for Columbus. A nice, happy 2025 where we can just talk about the hockey side of things and not about the more tragic side of things as well. For Carolina, this one's tough, because again, I want to put Stanley Cup. This is why I'm not letting myself do it, because it's the ultimate cop-out. Consistent for full 60 minutes. Every game, Carolina looks really good. And recently, in about half of those games, they still end up losing. The Carolina Hurricanes just need that focus. It is difficult over an 82-game schedule. Completely understandable. So I would say consistent 60 minutes from Carolina. For New Jersey, now, Luke Hughes is a very good defenseman, but it feels like he's on the verge of being one of the best defensemen in the league. It does. And so that breakthrough could happen this year. If you look at advanced stats, you look at like puck carrying and all that. Luke Hughes' numbers are very, very good. So maybe he has that breakthrough this coming season. Well, this coming year. So in the 2025 calendar year. And he's already very good. I just think he's able to hit that next level. Colorado. Sustained goaltending. Because it's been better since they got the new goaltenders of Blackwood and Wedgwood. So I'm just saying I'd like to see that sustained. That should be the thing. Colorado no longer worrying about goaltending. And I've started to see charts now that show how much better they've been playing. So, yeah, the goaltending is important. Penguins, they want the playoffs. So I'll go ahead and write that up there as their wish. Pittsburgh's been on quite the run lately. I absolutely think they could make the playoffs because I don't like to bet against Pittsburgh. I don't bet in general. But Pittsburgh's proven people wrong before, and they look like they could prove people wrong this year. And then Crosby being back in the playoffs gives all the NHL marketing team a relatively easy way to set things up. He's missed the playoffs back-to-back years. Now he's back in the playoffs. Is a redemption time for Crosby. There, I wrote the commercial for him. They're not going to pay me any money for it. For the Sharks, so we've already seen Celebrini miss time this year. I don't think they want that to happen again. So healthy Macklin Celebrini for San Jose. Stay healthy, play the rest of the season, and strive for that Calder Trophy. So Celebrini's health is what I'm wishing for San Jose. And then for the NHL, $7+ billion in revenues, which is where the estimates have been. And that would mean the salary cap would go up and the NHL would be quite happy. And honestly, I'd get a kick out of it if this summer they go, you know what, we're gonna expand. We're gonna announce that now because I don't mind chaos every now and then, and that announcement would definitely create chaos. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.